I wanted to pivot to a different topic, which is the signees that he talked about. Now, I've had my piece about Chandler Morris and him saying he's his favorite when we all know that ain't true. Bryce Young was his favorite, and that's the guy that he wanted. You didn't get him, so he's his favorite that was left. But he had some really interesting things to say about Josh Eaton and Reggie Grimes. What'd you take away from those?
Well, I think they were expected comments, right? He was excited about Grimes and Eaton, both prospects that he wanted pretty badly. I thought he was very vocal about the fact that he felt like Grimes was someone, number one, playing running back in high school at 6'4", 240 was what he said, is something he loved. And then going off of it, Joshua Eaton, one of the better athletes and providers of length in the nation that they targeted. So I think it was just what we expected to see. I thought the Morris comments, just like you, were a little bit fraudulated, if you will, if that's even a word. But we know what he's about, right? I mean, they couldn't land Bryce Young. It just happened to where Chandler Morris could have fallen right into their lap, and they took advantage of it. I don't blame him. He's certainly someone that, hey, you take that kid in, and maybe down the road he's providing you meaningful minutes out there in the field. So I think that it was what I expected to hear from him. And 3 very good pickups. I mean, hey, I like all 3 of those guys coming in. You can make the argument they're probably 3 of the more premier signees of the class as well. So, yeah, very encouraging to hear him take plenty of time to comment on those 3 newcomers for the program.
We mentioned how Chandler Morris kind of fell into his lap late because frankly, if Chad Morris doesn't lose his job at Arkansas, Chandler Morris is going to Arkansas. But what did he say? He said it was Chandler Morris or we weren't going to take a quarterback. I thought that was interesting because I believe you take a quarterback in every single class. Every single year, you take a quarterback. Sometimes you take 2 if they're available to you, like Texas, Quentin Jackson and Hudson Card, right? Cam Rising and Casey Thompson, right? Because the odds are you can only play 1, but you want to have some competition there. And if you don't have any competition there, you have a problem. Now, it's not about whether or not Lincoln Riley would be able to get another quarterback in 2021 or even going to junior college or going to the portal, as everybody keeps saying. I thought it spoke highly of Chandler for him to just say, hey, I wanted him, and if we didn't get him, I just wasn't going to toy with anything else because that was the guy I was in with. And Morris actually told Brandon Drum this, I want to say last month. It was, no, Coach Riley kept it 100% with me. It was either me or nobody. And he kept talking to me even as I was committed to Arkansas. Obviously, the conversation got a little bit more interesting when his father lost his job at Arkansas. But he was very much committed to the idea of, no, Chandler, I've settled on you. And if you decide to go to Auburn or Arkansas or Boise State or Va-Tech, all places that were viable options for him, he would have lived with that and he would have just gone about recruiting 2021. I thought that was important to talk about. And you mentioned Josh Eaton, who could end up being a sneaky good signing, right, with his length. Yep. But I also wonder how much, guys like Bryson Washington are going to be ahead of him. Kendall Dennis is also going to be with Joshua Eaton coming in the summer. And how does that figure into the depth chart? Because what we know about Oklahoma is they're going to be solid up front. We like what they return. Marcus Hicks, Marcus Stripling, you get the 2 junior college guys in as early enrollees. But keeping the top on the defense, particularly at the safety positions, is going to be the concern. So that was the way in which I thought perhaps Josh Eaton is much more important than we even know right now.
I think that he is certainly a important player in terms of the coming in class, if you want to put it that way. I mean, heck, every single one of these defensive backs is important if you really want to go that far. But I think Eaton is up there because of what we're discussing. He's just the perfect fit for what Alex Grinch, Roy Manning, and the rest of that Sooners defensive staff is looking for. I mean, 6'2" and close to 180, 190 pounds? You're not going to find very many cornerbacks that are built like him. I will say this. I think he's a little raw. I think that the athletic ability is there, but still a lot of development to take place. And then that's where what you're bringing up factors in. If he's not coming until the summer, how does that impact the trajectory of his future? He certainly impacts this season, but will he be fully prepared to play meaningful time on the biggest of stages? I think the guy that we both know I'm pretty high on in Bryson Washington may be the more suitable option. in that situation. But no, Joshua Eaton is obviously one of the more pivotal prospects in this class, and that's why they went after him so heavily. Even after there was the idea of, oh, well, he's basically a Texas lock or what have you in terms of the recruiting storyline surrounding Eaton. But no, he's a great pickup for them in terms of down the road what he can become. But then also kind of like what you're mentioning, I'm just very curious to see how much immediate impact he can provide knowing what he currently brings to the table.
It also brings into question for me what we expect Reggie Grimes to be in 2020 as Oklahoma returns two guys that played significant snaps at his position in Nick Bonito and David Ugwebu. Joseph Wette also got the redshirt year in there. I wonder how he figures into what they're thinking at outside linebacker, that defensive end position, and really what Jamar Cain is going to think of him when he gets here. I think that's also very important, and I would love to see what his assessment is of the guys that are already on that roster. If you were putting together the two deep right now, would you put Reggie Grimes in that two deep in August?
I wouldn't. And if I remember correctly, I mean, John Michael Terry's set to return next season, isn't he?
Yes,
so,
off the ACL injury. Yes.
And John Michael Terry, RJ, was such a good player for them before he got hurt. I mean, we don't actually give that guy enough credit. Last podcast, it was me commenting on the ability of Gabe Burkich. I'm going to go ahead and give John Michael Terry his fair shake because that dude was so good at setting the edge and getting his job done. But then when he went down, you saw the adjustment period that took place when they lost him. I mean, eventually it panned out because Bonito and Ugwebu are just rising stars. But even if you factor out John Michael Terry and say he either moves to inside linebacker or he's still banged up, I'm still looking at Bonito and Ugwebu, especially because of what they became as the season went on. So, no, I wouldn't factor him in also because of the fact that kind of going off of Eaton, I think that Grimes is really raw. When I saw him at the opening finals in Frisco, I just saw a pass rusher that, yeah, he's athletic, he's aggressive, but the technicalities and the fundamentals could still be harped on. So knowing that, taking everything into consideration, I don't see him as a two-deep member heading into August. I don't know how you feel about the situation.
I don't, but I also don't see, other than Bryson Washington, perhaps Shane Witter, and depending on how things break, Brendan Walker being as those guys that will be able to contribute right away. I know that we're all very high on Justin Harrington, but he ain't here, right? And I think that getting those 15 practices, in addition to winter training, in addition to summer training, going into the real summer where you have your involuntary, voluntary workouts, is going to be tremendously helpful to those guys. And because you lost so much at linebacker, whether or not you want to put Ryan Jones at will or you want to put him at outside linebacker, you talk about Levi Draper, Kenneth Murray Jr. Deshaun White's going to need a running mate, and the last time that Caleb Kelly was slotted in as the running mate for the middle linebacker, he got beat out by Curtis Bolton, and OU was better for it, so I'm not really ready to say that that's his job either. I'm really excited to see what Witter turns into, what Walker turns into, because where they put Walker is going to tell me a lot about Witter, in that dude's legitimately got 4.46 speed. He played on both sides of the ball. Wildcat quarterback, as well as a pass rusher, as well as a slot receiver. You know, I didn't see Brendan do those things, though. Brendan has the size already and the awareness to play at any position you want him to play. And I think both of those guys might end up sliding it inside, but it also means that you really trust Caleb Kelly there. And I think we're going to learn a lot about both of those guys come the spring game, and we're going to take our, P's and Q's from that, just as we do. We're going to overestimate the spring game because that's what we do.